Good morning, Dan and Amy, and we were talking about public safety issues as it relates to the state of Illinois with the governor's mandatory veto on gun control measures, as well as the attempt to reinstitute the death penalty for certain crimes.
For mass murders and cop killers.
More taxing power to local school districts for resource officers as it pertains to mental health and all of those issues. And part of the question, of course, is what can the state afford? At some point, you have to ask that question. I know it's not a question anybody in Springfield asks, or very few in Springfield ask, but what can the state afford? Well, you got to take a hard look at the numbers and black and white, the state's balance sheet, right? I'm looking at it per this report.
Yeah, how's it going over there?
Released by Truth in Accounting, which provides financial state, essentially a look at the financial state of the state of Illinois and the other 49 states, at least before Illinois becomes a territory, perhaps a special designation along with Puerto Rico and our other territories. The financial state of Illinois getting an F grade, which is nothing new. But for more on the details and the implications, we're pleased to be joined again by Sheila Weinberg, who's the founder of Truth and Accounting. Truthandaccounting.org is the website. Sheila, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on again. I hate to continue to be the bearer of bad news, but things in Illinois just continue to get worse.
Well, give us the gory details.
Well, the state on its audited financial report reported a $9 billion deficit. Keep in mind that there's often the point to the pension clause that we have to uphold that, but we do not seem to have to uphold the balanced budget clause of the Constitution. While the good news is our pension liabilities did go down a little bit thanks to the market, but our retiree health care benefits increased, were more than offset that because those increased by $8 billion. And unlike the pensions who have a little bit of money set aside to fund those, less than 40%, but they do have a little bit, the retiree health care benefits that have been promised have no funds set aside. And the Supreme Court, when they ruled that the pensions were constitutionally guaranteed, ruled that those unfunded retiree health care benefits were also constitutionally guaranteed.
The unfunded pension benefits went down a little bit thanks to 25% bump in the Dow explosion in the Dow last year. Unfunded pension benefits went down to only $134 billion.
Gosh.
Well, with a state annual budget or annual revenue, maybe it's a better way to look at it because the budget doesn't mean anything. The annual revenue about $37 billion. I don't know how you make up $134 billion as the liabilities continue to accrue. Even, for example, we've talked about in this show at the market return last year, you still saw, for example, the Chicago Public School Teacher Pension Fund increase its unfunded liabilities by $1 billion, even with a 15% return on the fund. So,
they still have less than 40 cents, set aside to pay every dollar that they promised. And I was surprised also to see that equals more than almost 8 times payroll. So think about that as laying off all the teachers for 8 years, putting all that money into the pension plan, and then they would be caught up. And to try to catch this up, for every dollar of salary paid to the teachers, 41 cents is being put into.
We have pulse attack. Sheila,
hi,
there you go. Sheila?
Yes, I'm still
okay,
here.
sorry.
All right, so 41 cents of every dollar is put into the pension, or what?
Yeah, so every dollar that is teacher's salary, so they pay $1, 41 cents should be being put into the pension plan to catch it up.
So were you enlightened at all yesterday when you heard about that sports betting is pretty much legal all over the United States and that's another taxable revenue here in the state of Illinois?
Yeah, well, as I say, there's only two ways to fix this: either to bring more money in or to take less money out. The Supreme Court for the pensions has pretty much shut down the concept of taking less money out of those. So therefore, bringing more revenue in some manner is I guess is the only option now.
Well, yeah, but I mean, is there really a way to bring in the kind of revenue that would be required to make a dent in the state's liabilities? You're talking even with whatever, say
Well,
hundreds of millions, $1 billion from sports gambling. Let's just say,
Okay.
even with the dedicated pension property tax that was proposed by a Daniel Bisdonor over at the Fed last week. I mean, you're just looking at the state here. In addition to that, you've got police and fire pension funds at the municipal level all over the state, like 650 of them, 60% of which are not making their required annual contribution to IMRF. I mean, to those funds. There is no way, on this mortal coil to actually come up with the revenue to fund what we're trying to fund.
well, you would say $216 billion is what we calculate they're in the hole, and if each taxpayer in Illinois was willing to write a check for $50,800 to Springfield, or had the capacity to do that, then we would be caught up.
Right. So the median household income in Illinois is about $56,000. So all we
Yeah.
need is everybody to
Yeah,
write a
just write a
$50,000 check,
check.
and then it's all settled. And
That's
and continue to do that, by the way.
And that's just as you mentioned, only for the state. It doesn't include, we estimate that the city of Chicago has $45,000 just for them. So you can work another year for the city of Chicago, and then there's Cook County and the Wagler Reclamation. There's a lot of government entities in the state, and most of those are in the hole.
You're going to need to come up with a grade lower than F for Illinois.
Yes, the good news. Another piece of good news is that New Jersey is worse than us. So that's the only other good news. But
New Jersey's worse.
yeah,
So how are Illinois cities getting into pension crisis?
the cities they have. We just finished a study on 10 suburbs in the Chicagoland area, and they have the same issue. They have been mandated by the state to pay police and fire funds. Any assets set aside to fund that are managed by the local police and firefighter boards. Those boards, by state mandate, have to be managed by 2 current police officers for police pension fund, 2 retired police officer, and a financial officer. So of the government. So you have billions of dollars are being managed by people who might not have the financial wherewithal to manage those, and then there is property taxes, so they can't raise the taxes to pay these mandated pensions. So again, like the state, how they have pension liability that is 10 factors of 10 payroll, they're just in deep trouble and can't see a way out of it.
Do you think that Chicago Fed dude Mattoon did us a favor last week with his proposal? Not in so much as saying this is a proposal that should be given serious consideration, but in trying to convey an understanding of how deep the problem is and what it would take to try and start climbing your way out of it, and doing so over 30 years, the kind of pain that would have to be inflicted to sort of call the question, either dissolve or fund, either watch these things death spiral into the turf or fund, but understand what the implications of each choice is.
Yeah, what we've done is gotten into problems because, the pension funds, which are, as we know, have billions of dollars of assets and liabilities, those are being managed on political decisions, not based on necessarily financial decisions. And, are we just automatically setting ourselves up for financial disaster in that type of a system?
She is Sheila Weinberg, founder of Truth in Accounting, truthinaccounting.org. You get where you can get the financial state of Illinois and all of its horrific detail, as well as all kinds of other information about states, federal government. It's the balance sheet. It's getting the numbers accurate so people can make proper public policy decisions based on real numbers. Sheila, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Sorry about the bad news.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someday, maybe we'll have you on for some good news talk.
Not about Illinois.
Yeah. Thanks, Sheila. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.